be shirts and bags of a new print of that same. Yeah, and we're open Tuesdays, Thursday through Saturday, 12 to 3. Tuesdays through Saturdays. Yes, 12 to 3. And next meeting, I'll bring you well, actually, are you gonna be at Rotary tomorrow?
Yeah, I was like.
Yeah, I'll bring it to Rotary tomorrow.
Yeah.
I should be there too. So, I'll bring that because I don't know why that would have been. Did you get a postcard? No. With the QR code on the back of it? Well,
I have a dozen schools.
It's amazing how hard it is.
That could have been, because if you got a postcard, but you didn't get a newsletter, then you weren't on the membership list, and we pulled from the old membership list to remind people.
Yours are so more.
Yeah, that's all I can think of for that. Because I know that people who hadn't been, then we sent them the postcard like, hi, remember, come back. So,
It looks good for the Title IX.
I think we've been members, maybe even longer than that. Carolyn's just still there.
okay, that's a long time. But from now on, from this meeting, you should be. So if you don't, we have a group of women that are doing the membership. And so it could have been something that got lost in translation. But I'll check and make sure it gets to you next time.
Thank you. Okay, it's 6:01, so I am going to call the City Council study session to order. And we stand for the state pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if there is no objection, I am just going to say that for the sake of roll call, that all the council members are here tonight. Okay. There isn't any special guests or presentations or any unfinished business, so we'll move right into new business, and that would be the school resource officers. That would be you, Chief Gann.
Okay, I guess I'm just gonna fill it out. Do you guys want a presentation, or do you guys just want to have questions about the SRO? How do you want to handle this?
I was under the impression you were doing a musical number.
Oh, that's gonna be fun for you guys, not fun for me.
Do whatever you want.
Okay. Well, do you guys have any questions about that SRO? I guess I'll just kind of I'll go through my PowerPoint a little bit. I think it was online as far as you guys have. Do you guys want that up there to reference?
Sure, sure.
Hey, Woody, will you put that up there? Yep. So you can just skip, next slide. Keep going. So I'll try to just kind of cover and go through this and kind of answer any questions at the end. I don't mind if you interrupt me and have a question in between. Some of them may be answered in this process. This is kind of what I go through, the benefits, purpose of SRO, how we kind of got here. Let's go through very briefly on the events nationwide as how that goes. The associated cost of the SRO, which is in the white paper included, and implementing the SRO and training associated with that. Next slide. So frankly, over the last 8 years, we've been talking about this off and on, just throughout the process with the school. And during this process, we both kind of agreed it's a good idea to kind of get going on this. But we never met at the right spot, both financially or staffing. There's always something that came up to where we couldn't really get to that position and get this going. So now, I mean, we have this included as a 25% of our Prop 1 levy from 2019, 2020, started receiving those funds for that. And then the school has their operations and education levy that I believe passed in 2022. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what it is. But so they're have the ability to be collecting funds for that position as well. So the goal is here is just kind of meet those expectations that were passed by the voters to get this going. And we're at that point where we can potentially get this going.
Chief, just a quick
Yeah.
question. Where is that money that's been collected? Is it going into our coffers or?
Yeah, it goes into the general fund, the city, and it's unfortunately impossible to segregate the money coming in. It all comes in lump sums from the county. And so there was not a set aside process put in place for our Prop 1 initially. And even if we did that, it would be artificial. We would have to just make assumptions based on what we promised the voters and take the lump sum as it comes in and take some portion off, but it wouldn't be exacting. But we do have the money for this. So we've always anticipated doing this. And that's why we put it in the budget.
And I imagine COVID sort of knocked this out for a while, right?
I think that had a big part in it. Yeah. So again, we've both had a shared interest in making this happen, improve the overall school safety and build relationships. It's kind of what it's all about. Next slide. Quite frankly, if we have an officer at the school, we'll have a police car that parked there all the time. We'll have an officer at the school. That alone, presence alone, deters criminal activity, deters kids from bringing weapons to school, bringing drugs to school, all that kinds of stuff that could affect school safety. So just the total discouragement of drug abuse and criminal activity is key. Being able to build a relationship rapport with the students, in doing so, we're hoping that return favor is, hey, if there's something wrong going in a school, they let us know, let a teacher know. Things have changed. I think a lot of students do when there's a threat or something posted on social media or stuff. We're getting more aware of that earlier than we ever have, because there's concern and fear of that. Whenever that happens, there's a fear created. Whenever there's a gun at school, there's a fear created. So what we're there is trying to be there to build that relationship rapport and hopefully deter that from coming into our schools. Obviously we're going to work with parents, students, staff, teachers, provide problem-solving solutions around the neighborhood. So anything surrounding, we would probably deal with stuff potentially if we get called to it, or we can also call for assistance from via our radio and dispatch to other officers to come assist. So it'll be direct intel of what's going on at the school. So obviously building that rapport, right? Our whole part of this is a reduction of juvenile and criminal justice system. Legislation has made that pretty clear. They don't want juveniles to be arrested in the criminal system. That is pretty clear to us. Our numbers are way down on any type of juvenile arrests or referrals. So a lot of times, I'll touch base on this on the topic. If we do have a crime that occurs in the school, most of the time that juvenile does not go to jail. So does not go to juvenile detention. That is more or less, it goes through their internal administrative process. If there is a crime, we have a discretion whether that goes to refer for charges or not. That's part of it. But generally that goes through the school discipline portion. We pick it up on the end and refer it over to be summoned in court at a later date if it meets those standards of, hey, this needs to be done. A lot of times with drug possession and such, would be probably have some discretion. They have to go through their type of school counseling, serve whatever suspension they are. A school is required to try to keep them in school. So there's probably a temporary period of time where they have to leave school, go home, do some complete training and still get the education they need. They're still allowed back at school. So there's a whole administrative process that goes into that. We could come in on the other side and refer that, but we did have a lag time where drugs were pretty much considered as legal for a couple of years. So we had a real problem with that. So before that, we were doing the education citation program. So we were already in the schools getting called for possession of marijuana, possession of alcohol, consumption, that stuff. We would take the report. We would offer them a education citation program, which they would, hey, fill out an agreement. Hey, I promise to attend counseling services, complete a program. And in the end result, once they complete that, there's no charges being filed. So that case is held with us. We take the report, take the evidence, go with that. But they're getting the necessary counseling to try to prevent them from using substances in the future, right? So it's that prevention factor. Instead of, charging them with a crime, they're getting a chance to learn about it and learn the effects of it and why this could affect them in the future. So that's something I would look at us start doing again and getting in that process and getting in there. Obviously, we're going to provide law enforcement services. We are law enforcement officers. So if there is something that we need to address, we're going to address it. That is mostly limited to if there is a threat inside the school, a threat to harm property, a threat to harm persons and such. That is a safety risk. That's probably the only time we're going to go hands-on or handcuff a student. We're going to do everything in our power not to have that happen, because the majority of the time, presence alone and telling somebody to do something, they're going to go to the office. So, quite frankly, plain language, that's what we'll be doing. Next slide. Again, we're going to work with school staff, offer resources, work with counselors, work with parents. We're going to provide law enforcement services on all levels, right? And provide investigative resources around the school. Next slide. I already covered most of that already. So the school resource officer will likely take a role in school activities before and after school safety meetings, parent meetings as necessary. But without overstepping, we don't want to be involved in the administrative discipline process as a totally separate. We want to be there just to support what the school does, right? So our element is building those relationships, talking with parents if needed. If we have an out of control parent, then presence alone again is likely going to solve the issue. We're going to de-escalate. We're going to talk to them. Hey, let's calm down here and let's have a meaningful conversation with staff, or you can go home for now and talk later. Pretty much what it would come down to. So I think next slide there. Just kind of covering, right? School safety is a goal, right? So this is just a list of, I just went over the last 3 years, school shootings, school shooting incidents, educational facilities. This includes colleges and high schools, that kind of thing, but it continues to be a problem around the nation. Washington State, we've had 14 since 2008. Not going to dwell on that too much. There's enough fear involved in that. So move on. Next slide. So in the process of doing this, I just went through the calls for service at the schools. We're getting called there pretty much daily. We're there quite a bit, and these are incidents that aren't quickly handled. They take time, right? They have their administrative process. We're there for a fight. We have to gather statements and gather evidence and such like that in response to that.
Do they call you for the fight?
Sometimes not. Not all the time. It's kind of at their discretion whether they call us or not, but we get called there quite a bit. It's much more than fights. There's more crime related stuff, sexual assaults, that's more in depth. We're going to be there a while. It may not have happened at the school, but that's where the student felt comfortable sharing information. And that's generally where we're going to talk to them. Yeah, assaults, threats. We do a lot of threats. But on this slide here, it just shows it, how many calls we get called to the high school. It just basically was showing, hey, where do we need a school resource officer most? Where do we have the most instances at? That was pretty much dwindled down to the high school and the middle school. And that shows 20. So if you look at the COVID age, it went down. We're going to be right back up to where we were 2019. I'm guessing here shortly. Next slide. Going through this are the types of calls that we dealt with in 2023 alone, just at the Sedro-Woolley High School. 7 fights, 8 threats of violence, 1 bomb threat, 1 weapon offense, and 1 gang-related incident. One of those was that swatting, where it's a fake phone call from somewhere else saying there was something, a threat of violence going on at school. You guys probably know about that, but we responded. We actually, Mount Vernon got one first. They responded, and then what happens in those instances, what they're trying to do is get all the resources to one area, right? Taking all the resources. So in those instances, what we did as officers, we started traveling over to Mount Vernon to go help them out in case it was. Well, they had school resource officers in their schools, so they were really quickly to identify, hey, there's nothing going on here. So that response kind of stopped. But ours came in while we were responding, so it pulled our resources away. And we didn't have that luxury as far as having an SRO in the school. So we still had to go in the school and make sure that room was clear, make sure that everybody was safe inside. And well, in that situation, we probably could have avoided a lot of that, right? We could have had an officer in there and he could relay that information. Hey, slow down, there's nothing going on in this school, that kind of thing. That was just one of the events that would help us out there. Next slide. Cascade Middle School, same thing, 2023, 1 assault, 14 threats of violence. 9 of those were deemed credible enough to charge, right? So those again, a lot of them were referrals. Some of those were booked in the JD, and 1 bomb threat. So these are the things that cause fear in our community. We have kids in school. We want them to be safe. When these things come out and go on social media, there's a lot of concern, right? There's a lot of concern as far as, hey, is my kid safe? I need to go out there. I need to go get them and cause that fear. Are they okay? Can they communicate with them? A lot of them have cell phones, right? But yeah, they don't know. What if they can't reach them? Then they're calling us. They're calling school. They're driving to the school. So that's pretty much what goes down on those type of things. Next slide. So just going over, Mount Vernon PD has 2 SROs. They have 1 in the middle school and 1 in the high school. If we're talking about future ILA agreements and such coming forward, they do as well have a 75-25% partnership. 25% is the police responsibility, 75% to the school. And of course, it's a little bit different. They only have 1 SRO, and that's a 50-50 partnership.
Before you go on, because
Yeah.
you're going to go into a different subject.
Yeah.
Going back to the crime at the schools, we
Yeah.
had the drug task force agent come in and talk to us about the increase in fentanyl.
Mhm.
And are we seeing that at the schools? He was saying there's like 1.5 million pills on the street. I know they're not going to adults, so is that something that?
It's a fear. It's there. It's there somewhere.
Yeah. Are you guys finding that? Have you charged anybody, or is anybody even ODing
In the
at the school or using?
No. In the school, no. But it's going to happen. I mean, the school has Narcan on hand now. We have Narcan with us as well. And I mean, one of the things we've even talked with Miriam, just Narcan is needed in the school. I mean, it just is. I mean, might as well be prepared for it if you do have to deal with it. It's around.
Question. Going back into violence in the schools and having an SRO there. So I have a friend who, unfortunately, her daughter in one of the local school districts got beat up in a gang-related jump on school grounds. Had no prior relationship with these three individuals. They just happened to be the person walking by that was jumped at school. The parent, how do they, or this was a couple years ago, since passed, they've dealt with this on their end. But she was trying to explain to me that with the SRO, they still, because of the way it was handled at the school, they weren't able to actually press charges because they're juveniles. But her daughter was physically attacked. How does that play out when you have an officer on site, you have witnesses around, but because of their age, does that then go to school policy, or does that go to a criminal act?
I think the parents would still have the right to press charges. I don't know all the details of the case. There could be lots of variables to this. And you could bring up lots of scenarios. I may not be able to give you a direct answer because I don't know the case. But yeah, everyone should have an opportunity. If the crime is there is a crime committed, there should be the ability to pursue charges. Would that juvenile or suspect go to juvenile detention that time? Probably not, unless there were serious injuries or such. But it would be referred to the court, and then it'd be up to the prosecutor to decide if they're filing charges.
Okay.
That's just the basic. That's the basic.
No,
Because that's generally how it happens.
Okay.
So when you're talking like this, can you tell me why one would rather, I mean, I get why you would want a police officer, but wouldn't kind of what you guys are dealing with be like a security thing? Could we hire more security campus guard type people there? Or is it, we're just going straight to police?
The school could, but then we wouldn't be involved with that. We would not be supporting funds for security for the school district. This is a partnership, and like I said, building those relationships inside the schools and building rapport, it serves lots of factors. One, we're gonna gain trust of these juveniles and students. We're gonna be at their events. We are already. We're gonna be in the lunchroom. We're gonna be able to talk to them. The fact that we can be real persons and be approachable is a big key for us. And then you look at the opportunity for how hiring is for police officers. What if we're able to recruit local talent from just being there and being approachable? It's like, hey, I really like the Sedro-Woolley Police Department. I think I want to pursue a career in law enforcement. And there we go. We got a chance to hire somebody local, which is nice.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more to it. There's a safety factor, but it's a relationship factor as well. As far as security, like I said, we would be a part of that as far as funding a security position. Yeah, we're law enforcement, and we have the ability to take action if needed.
Where a security person wouldn't.
Right. So we have different tools available to us. We have different resources available to us.
Yeah.
And we're commissioned law enforcement, so we have the right to make arrests or not, which is an ability they don't have.
What about personability? You're talking about building relationships with students. I remember I was at a high school, 2,000 students that had a security guard like you're talking, but not very personable, not very polite, kind of rode people pretty hard, ended up being the guy nobody liked. And it seemed more advantageous to the intent when they were brought in to protect and to serve. Is that in the recruitment of this as a local officer? And, I mean, you would think local with kids probably be, coach afterwards, know people or do things. I'm not saying they have to do any of that, of course, but it'd be nice to know they were personable with the students.
I think that goes into the hiring portion of this position, right? So both the school and we're not going to put anybody in there that is doesn't want to be there. We want somebody that wants to be there, has that meaningful content that they want to provide and communicate with them. It's,
Person skills.
yeah, personable skills, right?
Because sometimes those kids that are hardest to reach, that are the most destructive, that are the target of like, I deal with you, and then everybody else can fall in line. Those usually once they open up or they get, some relationship bound, they actually turn around pretty quickly and become an influence to others. But it's just a matter of how that's approached.
Right, and once you get to that point, you have no idea what home life is for some of these kids. This is their best place to go. So you have no idea what's going on in the background of what's going on at home, what issues they're dealing with, and this might be the best time of their day at the school. So just understanding that. Not everything's to be shared right away, but it gives that opportunity to share information and talk to each other. And then that officer could also like, hey, well, what about this? I mean, kind of like a counselor too, or future, what do you want to do with your life? Kind of future thinking, right? What do you want to do? What do you need to get there? That kind of thing.
Would that officer be involved in active shooter drills and things at the school?
It would be involved with the safety and security of the school. So, plans and such and policies, they would be helping assess needs of the school, there things that aren't correct. So right now we have a lockdown system at the school. It's high tech. So if there is an incident, they're supposed to press a button, all the doors locked, right? But there's also training involved that goes along with staffing too. In a lockdown, you're not supposed to let anybody else in. That's because there's something going on. It's supposed to remain locked down. And, just make sure that staff is trained in adhering to those policies, right? There's a reason for it. The threat could be outside, could not be inside yet. You don't know who the threat is, that kind of thing. So just along those lines, it would help with assessing the safety policies at school.
Just picking off some social media and averting a tragedy to me is really important. It happened probably half a dozen times at Western with our police being told things. And then we found, in one case, we had a guy walking to the university with a shotgun and they caught him 2 blocks away. So that was on social media and somebody told them.
That's one good thing about social media is one, we generally getting awareness of it, that people are calling and reporting to us, and more likely we already know. But what if we don't know? We'd like to know, right? And so if we can handle that and get it handled before school starts or whatever, that's the key. And then what do we generally do if it's out there? What we generally do is we'll go provide presence outside school to help ensure visibility and presence at school for safety purposes, make it feel safe. It's just part of doing our job.
Chief, can we talk about hiring and training real quick? So earlier you said this is something we've been looking at for 8 years. And one of the issues with staffing, is that still an issue?
Yes, I mean, we have 19 right now. We're still trying to hire one vacancy right now. So it's more difficult to hire than it ever has been.
So this would be a +2 vacancy then, right?
That's true. It would be an additional after that.
So we're -1 and we're trying to hire one.
Yep.
Okay.
It's
And
far better than it used to be.
yeah. And so, let's see. So one of the things I heard, it was in a previous discussion about the training. So you're looking at getting 2 trained for this position, right?
I was looking at that as a possibility for the ones that were interested in it. So yeah, the thought is to get ahead of the game, so we're not waiting for that position to be trained. So hey, they get the training before they start the school resource officer position. I know you're allowed to go in there and get it within 1 year of becoming chosen. We could choose to do that way. I was just thinking that might be a good option to do that. Then both of those subjects would have knowledge to that. And in case there was happened to be a fill-in portion, we could probably figure out something like that too.
Right. So, because I know there is like a certain amount of training you go through to be a school resource officer, right? Like that's a real thing. And then
there's a basic school resource officer. I guess I should explain is that's a 40-hour course. That's a basic SRO course, but there's continuing training. There's advanced SRO course, which I think this officer would have to keep doing that to strengthen his skills and get more education on the school resource officer program. This officer is going to learn a lot in his first year and just continue to build that. But this is not a new officer that's going in there. This is going to be one of our experienced officers that has, several years of experience prior to going in there, and would be hand selected by the process of the school board and us. Overall, I get the final decision, but then again, I'm not going to force anybody into that position. And I want somebody that wants to be there, wants to do that job. If you know anything about being pushed into something you don't want to do, you're not going to get the involvement you really want out of that officer.
Yeah, we see kids come, or officers come from bigger cities to smaller cities. And they got a different mentality in the bigger city, and then they bring that to the smaller city and it doesn't work out. It's a little too aggressive with the community. Or you see that sometimes with the SOR officers, they do get training, but then they bring that streets of being a police officer into the school where everybody's a suspect. And it's like, versus it's a teenage school or it's a middle school and they're kids. So just that having that transfer of mentality, that would be important, at least to me, in that selection process, because it is a different mentality. And every time I go through the airport and I see the TSA and you got to put your hands up like you're some criminal doing this, you're just like, where are we? So I would like somebody that's friendly.
Absolutely, that it would come from our core right now. I mean, it would come from our core. The hiring of a new position is only a backfill. It's a backfill, right?
Yeah, you got a great staff over there.
So, and all of them are been there, and they love our officers there, and so that's a plus. Obviously, we have a few that they like more, but the ones that are going to be going into are going to want to be there.
We still have fighting in the school grounds, but I went to school at a school where they still paddled kids in the auditorium or in the office, and they had like paddle with the whole. Anybody else go to school like that?
yeah,
Yeah. You know what? It was mellow.
In North Carolina, when there was a fight, the teachers would make a ring and let you fight.
Well, yeah, or you just go out to the playground. Where do you get the old saying? I'll meet you at the jungle gym, because you go out there and everybody circle around, you duke it out until.
So these are the teachers doing it, which was amazing.
It's even better.
Can I ask about the,
Alan, did I finish your
sorry.
question first?
I got a few more on the training and the expenses. So looking on page 15, it's within Exhibit A. Scrolling down all the way, it has all these cost itemized, and I'm just wanting to make sure that I ask these questions, even though with the understanding that council's already approved this year's budget amendment for 24.
I think you're pulling it up now. Thanks, buddy.
Okay, thanks, Woody. So on page 15, we got breakdown of equipment, training service costs under the training tab. So like up above, you got the body cam, tasers, ammo and range time, uniform equipment, including firearms, patrol vehicle. So we're going to be buying a new vehicle. The school district's going to be assuming.
So we're just going to provide them a vehicle that is in our fleet. And use an older vehicle we already have. So we're not buying a new car. This vehicle is not going to be, it's going to be stationed at the school and to back and forth from work. So it's not going to get a real big patrol function. So it's going to be lightly used.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That does make sense. So later on down the line, when we need to get a new vehicle, are they gonna assume 75% of the cost of that?
Well, that's something we can talk with the school
Yeah,
about.
we could, it's certainly something we can ask them if the council.
I
as a
don't
group
think it's
wants
in the
To
contract.
go there. It's not right now.
It's not. right
It's
now.
so under the interlocal agreement exhibit A, it's not in the contract right now.
Not that I'm.
Okay.
you know.
And then so under training academy, we're looking at 4947, $4,947. Is that for the police academy or is that for the 40-hour?
That's for the
Force.
police academy. That's for the police academy.
So that's to train a
That's our
new
standard.
recruit.
Yep, that's our
Okay.
standard new officer training.
I
Yeah.
thought there was a bill in the legislature that the state would pay for academy.
They pay for a portion of it. That's our portion of it.
That's our match.
Yeah, that's our match.
Okay. So downstream, understanding that we're not gonna send a 22-year-old straight out of the
Right.
academy over to the high school we're gonna send somebody that we already have, most likely, that's well-trained. And the school district is still gonna split a 75-25 on the back cost of all these other things, right?
Of the equipment?
The equipment, the academy. So we just discussed that the patrol vehicle's out unless they want to contribute to our ER&R fund for that.
That's how I interpreted it.
So,
That's all right here.
Yeah, I guess to understand, where's your, so on this, it says this will be the cost of Sedro-Woolley PD equipment training service. So that's what I see in here.
So the salary is the 75%,
salary
and
is
then
the
that
75%.
additional SLO training where they have it actually broken out, academy 75-25, when they define it, that's what. And
So just to be straight up, before I was asked to provide all of the associated costs that could incur with this. This includes 911 services, Axon body cam services, because we have bought the actual body cam, but we have a contract through them. Taser, same thing with a contract with them. So what it is kind of add it all add up as potential and then divided by the amount of officers, right? So that's kind of where I got those numbers. But more likely we're gonna be paying those services anyway, right? They're all differently adjusted based off calls for service and the number of officers you have.
Okay, so I guess what I'm getting at here, and first of all, I appreciate your presentation. And I think that this is an awesome idea. What I'm getting at is what are the downstream costs that are not associated here that the city is going to have to bear 100% of by adding one FTE, even though they're paying 75% of the salary. We're talking about a car that we're gonna have to buy. We're talking about a lot of other things that we're gonna have to shoulder 100% of the cost on. Is that right? Or, because the school district's not gonna pay 75% of a patrol vehicle for us, are they?
Not the way it's currently
Yeah,
set up.
okay.
So it's salary and benefits. We're picking up the equipment costs, which would include the future replacement costs for that as well. And that breakdown of equipment and training service costs, all those things in the first section, Axon body cameras down to Skagit County IS, those are all items that would be borne by the city. And then below that in the training area, those three items, the academy split 75-25, the basic academy for the backfill officer, that's one time, that's for this hire. And then the basic SRO lodging and travel for their training covered by the school district. And then any additional SRO training covered by the school district, 100% on those last two.
Okay,
One thing we were considering in all of this, and Chief and I had this discussion with the district, is that it's a 75-25 split. During the summer, the officer is on patrol for the city as well. And so that's part of the consideration here and having us pick the equipment cost up.
Does that include like a winter break and spring break? With the officer would just be patrolling in the city, so you.
Right. You'd be able to come back and do that unless they had planned vacation or not, but generally that's what would happen. They'd come back and work regular shifts.
Especially in summer, it's 3 months right there, right?
Which helps. 4th of July, for sure.
What about the body cam as far as FOIA request? Or there's going to be, do they already have stipulations, I would imagine, through other districts? Because you're filming children.
They're on camera already. They have video there already for
Not
safety
available
purposes.
to the general public. Schools don't have cameras available.
No, right,
Yeah,
but
so.
body cams are, so anytime we deal with a contact that's criminal related, that body cam would be activated. And so what happens in that is a criminal case, so public doesn't get that, but anybody, so if it's something, it would get redacted. So people would be blurred out. If there was a public records request on a certain incident. That's how it would kind of go that way.
We just went over that a couple meetings ago. The lieutenant gave us a pretty decent breakdown of what the cost associated is with somebody to make a freedom of information request on body cam and all the redaction, but there's also man hours associated with doing that.
That's correct.
Later in the technology meeting, Woody mentioned that there's an algorithm they use for a good general portion of that. They might have to go through and watch that particular area to clip out a couple of things that maybe the algorithm didn't quite catch, but the algorithm should catch that. And if you guys are pursuing, which I believe you are, new technology for your body cam, the algorithm for that editing and that redacting is going to be more advanced. So less hours involved.
Yeah, we're looking at that.
If I could clarify, I meant that I believe the new body cameras have the ability to associate the body footage with whatever case number they're actually working with. It doesn't modify any of the actual video footage.
You're talking about auto tagging. So that is something we implemented a little while ago, which basically uses our CAD system, and it compares the same time of call. So if body cams are activated at that time, it's going to automatically assume that they're going to this call and enter the case number, so we don't have to enter it in ourselves. Saves the officer time. Because how many videos do we do a day? Quite a bit. So it saves that time. But as far as that, I know Lieutenant is looking at, we're looking for a quote on how much that would cost to help that redaction process, to see if it would be beneficial to us.
So has anybody asked the students how they feel about this? I know that the parents weigh in really heavy, obviously. What are the students? When I met with them at the teen center and a few times, and they said security is a big thing to them. And it's something I didn't really experience when I grew up, so I can't like completely relate, but obviously they feel it's a big thing to them. So can't dismiss it either. And I don't know what they're dealing with right now, of course. But there hasn't been like a survey, or that would be more on the Merriam side, the school district side.
I think that'll be on their side.
If we ask them, or
The district is doing a survey. I think it's more of a public survey. I don't know if kids are able to participate in that or not. I'm not sure how that's handled, but several of the administrators were at the public meeting the district had the other night, and we're certainly speaking in favor of having this resource available, particularly at the high school.
What were the comments like? Were parents talking at that meeting, or was it just administrators?
It was a mix of people. I think there were a variety of questions. Chief handled a lot of them. Any highlights? Not sure.
Any highlights?
Yeah.
One of them was here.
Yeah, there were a lot of comments. There really weren't a whole lot of public. The public was not well represented there. There was actually, I think, more staff and admin from the school district. And the questions that were brought up are very similar to what you all have brought up. Same kind of questions, asking about the body cam, asking about how the officers are going to be involved. Are they going to be there to arrest people? You know, so there were a lot of things that needed just clarification. They did ask about the vehicle, wanting to know if the school was going to be responsible for that. So a lot of the same questions that you're asking now.
Some questions.
It's online right now. Is it improper to put out through the police station a Facebook post to inquire about this with the parents? Hey, we're looking at doing this and wanted to get the community still on that. Where is that?
The survey, where's the survey online? Is it through the school
It's
district?
through the school district.
Because that might be the best route. Yeah.
I believe it's still open. I think it is.
I think the parents are going to be ultimately the ones that are most impacted. I want to be, besides taxpayer funding, we do want to make sure that they're safe. So.
You know, I just knowing when we go in the schools, a lot of times we're welcomed in and they say hi and that kind of thing. I know we've eaten lunch with them before. Yeah, I'm sure there's some students that probably don't want us there, but overall, I think it's just understanding is we're gonna treat everybody the same person. They're a student, and we're there to build that rapport and offer some a safety component.
And make you human. A couple years ago, my cousin, they live in California, and her daughter came up to visit, and so I had her here one day and gave her a tour of the city hall, and we went in to see the officers, and she was shocked that we could actually talk to the officers, because where she lives is kind of as you related, Nick, that you just didn't approach them, you didn't talk to them, you didn't know how they were going to respond. There was absolutely no relationship. She didn't see them as being human beings, and she was actually totally amazed. In fact, even that you could talk to our officers, that they greeted her, asked questions about, you know, ask personal questions about her, you know, why are you here visiting, things like that. And I think that's volumes. I mean, especially if we're looking for wanting to keep criminal activity reduced here in the city, if we want to kind of move on the same page, move together rather than being at odds with one another all the time. It's kind of a good opportunity.
I think the key to success of this program is finding the right person.
Absolutely.
That's, you know, like you were saying, you get the wrong person and it's just a disaster, but you get the right person who can connect with the kids and the teachers and staff, then you got a home run.
Right. It's successful in Mount Vernon and in Forest. It seems like it's working very well. Like Mount Vernon's had it since 2003, and in Forest 2015.
You guys are already at the football games and basketball games. The kids love you guys.
Yeah.
There's not gonna be a problem.
It's fun. It's you know, the concept of this, we know that all kids are good kids. Sometimes they make mistakes, and sometimes you got to deal with it, and sometimes it's just a learning lesson. Nothing against them. I think that's part of what we do.
Yeah, right.
So it looks like we're looking to fill this for the 25 school year.
I think that makes the most sense, especially when you brought up hiring and recruitment. It's a struggle, right?
Yeah.
So it takes time. So I think that allows us to give us enough time to hire a position and get the second position going. And that is all kind of up in there. What if things happen. We can't predict the future. It's like, how do I know if we're going to lose somebody? I don't know that. There's always that potential though.
And then, so what would be our next steps? Because we've approved the funding for this through the 24 budget. So essentially, is the ball in the school district's court now?
There's a contract that we will need to approve. They'll need to approve as well. It's an interlocal agreement. So the copy included in the packet, and that's basically the action that we would need to take. So our budget lines up with what's in there at this point, but until we take that action, this doesn't happen. They'll need to take that action as well. And we need
Do
to
we
make
feel
sure
like they're going to say yes or no?
I'm not gonna predict where they're headed. I mean, we feel pretty positive from our conversations there. And we feel positive with the draft interlocal agreement that we're pretty close to what the final version will be. But they are gonna have another work session to talk about the survey they did and talk about comments they heard at their public meeting they had recently. And so we're gonna hold up a little bit on this interlocal agreement. We don't want to bring it to you multiple times. If we happen to pass it and then they ask for changes, that's not fine. So
Yeah.
we're going to hold up just a little bit, but we wanted to show you what we've been working on with them. And certainly if you have questions or concerns there.
So you'll
Stuff that
notice
we
some of it's red line, some of it's
Yeah.
got, so you can see where things have been added or changed.
So a few weeks out in all likelihood, maybe early April at the latest.
Okay, so
Looks like
once,
we'll have some action.
once both parties agree and we sign that, then we can
Then we
go to
can-
hire.
Then we can move forward with the hiring process. Yeah, and not starting that now, not knowing if we have an agreement or not. That kind of starts that time for us to try to look for that position.
So this is a negotiation between the school district and us. Seems like we've given them everything in the kitchen sink on this to help protect the kids because they're asking for it. I didn't know it was they're saying, well, we might want more or something. I don't even know what they would be
I
negotiating.
think it's.
Yeah.
It's
Is it just
responsible.
something whether they want the person there or
I think
not?
it's the public. They really want the public on board instead of
Yeah.
at least the parents on board.
I thought that's what drew the whole thing out. What rose up the whole question of getting this on the docket over the last 8 years. Because the public wanted, the school wanted it. But you're
Yeah.
saying they might not, or there's still discussion, or they might say, hey, we don't want to do 75% or 25%. We want.
No,
We
I
wanna
think
do-
that's the number where we're at. I don't think that's any different. What it comes down to is when you do an ILA, you want to make sure you have everything out, not correct it every year.
Yeah.
You know, yes, it will be reviewed. I'm sure we'll probably miss something in there. We'll have to add something next year. But Mount Vernon still has their old one from 2003. So I think it's beneficial to get what you need in there now, so you don't have to readdress this every year, right? Other than wages, right? Wages go up, so those increase.
I'd be interested in what the survey says, what the parents come back with. It'd be interesting.
Yeah, we can share that with you. Certainly we'll plan to do that when we bring the ILA forward for our first read.
So the school district had a prop that passed and we had a prop that passed for funding for the police department. When does that prop expire?
It doesn't. It was a
It doesn't.
permanent levy.
Okay.
One thing it didn't look at, which we learned from on the fire levy lid left, you'll recall we had, for those of you who were on the council, a great spreadsheet from Kelly that looked out 10 years on the fire one. And we wanted to make sure that we could sustain the hires that we made this year for at least 10 years. And the way that she does that is in the very out years, we're actually losing some money, but we reserve money in the near term so that we can make sure we sustain those positions on the back end for like the last 3 years. So we are segregating those funds for fire based on that discussion we had with council. We do know how much we get in year one, but it's after year one that it starts to get fuzzy. So for police, it's forever, but we didn't think about the long term and we didn't look at the inflation question. So the reality is we've hired a number of officers. We've done some stuff with support staff. We haven't run all the numbers on this, but Kelly's going to be bringing you a report at some point. But in all likelihood, we've spent at least as much as that brought in for us because costs continue to rise. But this is a priority in what was voted, and that's why we are bringing it forward to you. It's a priority for the community. It seems to be a priority for everybody. And we find a way to make it work. And being on the 25% versus the 75% side makes it a little bit easier, I think, for us financially at least to absorb it. And they are a bigger agency with a bigger budget, so that's a consideration as well.
How does the retirement handled for that individual?
It's all under us.
It's still our employee. We're basically just loaning it out. So when that officer is over there, they're paying that salary. So that's a 75% of it. If any point that we can't, you know, we don't have enough staffing, enough patrol, we can pull that back and then PR back to ours. But obviously we don't want to get that position, but that stuff could happen. But it's kind of one of the things we wanted in there just in case.
Do they do, or is there an opportunity, and it would be, if you already have an officer on site, the fire department has levy increase, for their seniors or juniors, some sort of fire and safety introduction class where they're able to help teach that.
I think that's gonna be part of it.
It'd be
I mean,
nice
they're
if it
They're not teachers, but like, I mean, what's our expertise, criminal procedures and stuff like that? What kind of questions do you have about law enforcement? What, anybody interested in law enforcement, they can ask questions, that kind of thing. The effects of drugs, what's out there, educating that kind of stuff in Fort Valley too. I think it's gonna have to be, something the school would allow us to do. We kind of do this already. We have an officer go in there and say, hey, a health class, and go, hey, here's a police officer. You guys got any questions? Any questions you want to know about? So let's talk about pursuits. We'll talk about, use of force, talk about what about drugs, answer questions, just off the cuff kind of thing.
Do they have a career fair or anything like that?
You got one tomorrow.
At the schools, because that's a great opportunity to say talk about law enforcement as a career.
Usually they got the army there, they got a lot of businesses around there. Yeah, it's fire department, police department would be a great one for them, or to even have an on-site once a week class or something. For one semester or one period.
Is this officer, I'm assuming, is that in the police union? Or is this part of the
Yes.
school district? It is.
Yes.
Will remain in. police
Remain
union.
so if they'll remain in our retirement system, doesn't change at all.
And we didn't mention this and don't anticipate it happening very often, but if there's a large police incident that occurs somewhere in the community, they can get pulled out of the district. Come and help.
And then that officer also has to comply with our mandated state training. We have training that we have to go. So there might be times where that officer has to go. We'll do everything we can to probably get those done during the break times. But we have to qualify for firearms. We have certain things we gotta do. We got crisis intervention, we got de-escalation, we got all this stuff that we are mandated by the state to do.
So they'll be carrying firearms on their side.
Yeah.
Or they'll have one.
Or just a regular uniform, nothing. That was one question that I think came up, not at this meeting, but previously. Would the officers be in uniform? No, yes, they'll be in uniform. It doesn't serve any purpose to not be undercover.
Is there, it's probably not, especially around here, but is there any desire to see if any of the teachers, maybe with military background or law enforcement background, are able to carry? Or not carry, but
That
have?
again would not be our involvement. We would not
It'd be
be
on school
funding
district.
a position for.
No, you won't be
help.
funding it, but it would be supporting training and response. So, hey, just happens, is what you should do.
Yeah, that's definitely a school question. That would.
It'd be nice, it'd be a good deterrent. I think.
So I'm fine with the numbers. I think this seems reasonable on paper. It sounds like a great idea, what you're talking about, what your goal is for it. I think that it could go horribly wrong or fantastic, depending on the people that you put in and how diligent you are on watching. For me, that is my biggest concern. When I asked my wife how she felt about it, she goes, well, my SRO was a little too hands-on with the student body and they ignored it for a number of years before he was actually arrested.
That would be a problem. Yeah.
And I understand you're not the kind of person who's going to ignore that, but I'm hoping that you will train those two officers and rotate them through and check in with the school staff and the students and see how they're actually working out.
That's part of that is I think one of the questions was, would be a contact as far as a report or evaluation from school staff and our staff checking in. So, I mean, I already have planned it's gonna be a lieutenant or a sergeant that oversees that program, having reports. Hey, if there's something going on in school, we want to know about it, right? And also the principal and superintendent want to know about it. So it's just that communication. Hey, this happened at school. Whenever there's something that goes on in school, people need to know, right? So, yeah, there will be oversight on it.
I think just getting a lot of intelligence. I was driving this weeks ago past Dairy Queen. I saw a very violent fist fight, which looked like a couple of middle school kids. And I asked my granddaughter, who's in middle school, she said, oh, that's a fight spot. And I went, what? It's a fight spot. It's where they go to fight.
The demo gym.
That they're doing.
Easier
with
handled.
Sedro-Woolley.
Business for boys become men.
Yeah. Do we have much of a presence of gang activity in the high school?
There are gangs in the high school.
Are they like from Mount Vernon or just?
Well, no, we have kids locally who live here that are gang involved.
Is it just listening to rap music and living in that zone in their head?
No,
I can see like squabbles between cities, like, oh, Burlington and Sedro-Woolley, or even within different parts, but a lot of it's the influence of music that creates that ideology.
they're around. It just seems that a lot of their activity is not in our area. We do have graffiti from time to time. But we do have incidents from time to time. It's there around. That's part of this though too. The school resource officer is gonna have that involvement, watch out for those types of issues. And be involved in that, the SROs, the current SROs are involved in a gang community kind of information thing and information sharing. So I'll share one incident. We had one that was last year, and that was again one of the gang incidents there, and it was the school had called. They were thought something was going to go down right out after school. They were very freaked out. This person was, it was opposing gangs, so you never know what was going to happen, right? We got called. We arrived. They left. Nothing happened, but it could have. These subjects were involved in a serious crime the following weekend. So just knowing that, there's definitely concern about that.
Well, and knowing that, that just defers it to a different day. That doesn't stop it when that kind of thing happens, unfortunately. But at least stop it from happening there.
How much more juvenile crime have you seen increase since the state decided to pull back and basically give the kids a slap on the wrist for performing these crimes?
It's very hard to tell because we don't have those
Because you can't track
statistics,
those
right?
anymore.
The inability to do some of those things, and I mean, one of the difficult thing is if we do have a crime, we can't interview a juvenile. So if they're a suspect, they have to be given counsel, and the counsel has to waive their rights, and that never happens. So a lot of times it's gathering statements from everybody surrounding witnesses, and then it's good and bad in some cases. One, they're protected, but two, if that juvenile has an alibi or has some reasoning to it or something to their defense, they don't get to talk to us about it. So sometimes it could be found out later, but they could go to in custody until that's figured out.
And the schools have options like expulsion and things like that, right?
Yeah.
Did a ride along with an officer when I first got on, and he saw a car driving erratic and speeding, so he decided to get behind him, pull him over. And the person finally stopped in front of the house, but wasn't stopping right away. And then tried to get out, and the officer was saying through the louder, "No, stay in your car, just stay in your car, don't worry." Very cool about it. And the kid just tried to get out, and it ended up being about a 13-year-old kid. Took his mom's car, trying to get inside the house at that point, and the mom came out and didn't want to press charges, didn't want to do anything. I asked the officer, like, you can't do nothing? He's like, no, it's a kid. So if I did arrest it, just push the punishment on the parents, but I can't even arrest because they're a juvenile. So they can drive erratically, speed through neighborhoods, get a cop to pull them over, and then they just go back inside, and the mom's like, I just can't control him. He just does his own thing. He steals my car. It's
You got an age factor too, 13, and all those come into factors. And then if it's mom's car, you also have, it's not a stolen car anymore. It's a civil issue. And then, but yeah, the traffic stuff generally is could be referred over. They're probably not going to do anything with a 13-year-old.
Yeah. They didn't do anything.
Kind of drawing, coming back to the topic at hand, the SRO. Any other questions regarding the SRO? Any comments? No?
So we're looking at a interlocal agreement of about 2 months from now. or less?
Yeah, somewhere in that range. You know, we're gonna delay, we're ready to, really close to being ready to go within a few days of probably having the language in the agreement nailed, but we want to hold up so the school district can get through their process and get ready for action on their side. And then when they go for action, we'll try to time it up as best we can to go for action. At the same time. It could be sooner. It could be April.
They're,
Yeah.
they're meeting shortly, meeting soon, so conversation will happen then.
I think it sounds like most of us, or all of us, are in favor of what we've currently got, so. So are we move on to something else, or is that, I just have one thing to say on a different topic. So it looks like the state has repealed a couple of those laws, including the ones that were unfavorable to our police departments, but 3 of them that mainly got repealed, which was good because the general public finally stood up and said something. 3 more on the docket to get repealed in fall. And one of those is that climate division within the comprehensive plan that we've all been kind of arguing about. So that's something that I think should be considered when we're planning out all this budgeting for comprehensive plans and you know, bringing on the grants and the funding and the increase and all that stuff. So hopefully they do repeal it, but there is enough people out there that are saying this isn't right to put on the small cities or small towns. So hopefully that happens.
I'll go back and look at it. I received mail from Commerce, and they're talking about, I think it's 2 public informational videos or meetings. I'll have to go back and look at it, but I can forward to you. Maybe that might be something you might be interested in watching. I did send it off to our planning department, but I haven't had a chance to really look at it yet. So.
The repeal that he's talking about, I haven't had a chance to read what they did. Is that a full reversal? Is that a partial nibble a little off a corner?
What, the pursuit?
Yeah.
I think it just puts us on, it allows us decision-making, right? So I don't know that it really changes much. I think the damage is already there. But it allows us to a little bit more flexibility as far as decision-making. If that makes sense. We still have to take in account liability and take into account what's it worth, right? So I don't know that it changes much for any of us.
I guess a lot of it was public perception of it suddenly being more easy for them to do. Is there anything that can be done on that front of, hey, now they've reversed this law? At least stating publicly that it's been reversed. Hopefully that gets down to the criminal and they think that you're going to pursue them.
Hopefully you do. Hopefully it's not just words.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not just like.
I mean, we're
it's a reversal.
We're pretty active.
Yeah, I think that's why everybody got upset by it.
100%. But we also want to be safe and doing the right thing. We don't want to endanger the public when doing so. So we're still going to have standards. May affect a change in our policy a little bit because we're going to have to adopt state law.
You don't think you had those standards before this law was in place? So the law went into place and you guys didn't consider that, or the law?
We still did.
Yeah. I would imagine you would have considered it, and then the law just revoked a lot of that. The public got really upset and said, hey, we want our police force to take action. So they repealed the law, but you're saying that at that point, you're still going to be very selective on what you're doing, even though the people are like, no, I do want, we hired them to do this. We would like them to be a little bit more persistent.
We're still going to be selective on some things.
Good to know.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a speeding violation and that's all you got, sometimes it's not enough.
And that's what you would have done before
Right.
this law came on.
Yep. It's still different than way before. We have a lot more discretion, and a little bit more time to kind of evaluate. But it gives us the same thing. We're going to evaluate the situation. We're going to have a supervisor involved and help making that decision, make sure we're doing the right thing. And a lot of times we don't know who this person is and such. So it's pretty hard to prove what they're running for.
Well, I just want to say, I thought it was exceptionally tragic, the death of the highway patrol officer. That was horrible.
Going back to that law, though, the past, it was 77-20. So that says that people,
They want the police force
That's right.
active, is what they're saying.
yeah, in the house, I should say in the house. It was 77.
It's, yeah, it's important to the people, I know that, but.
If we have the ability and it meets what we believe in, we'll keep going.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thanks for the presentation. It was good.
Thank you. Thank you. Am I done here?
Yeah,
I
if you
can go
want.
home?
We- you
What else you got?
Sure you don't want to hang around and hear about community development grant program update?
I think I need to use the restroom. No, it's been a long day, so I'm gonna go home, if that's okay.
Thanks,
All
James.
right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
All right. All right, I'm going to pass this over to you, the community development grant program update.
Yeah, the update, there was a spreadsheet, tracking spreadsheet in the packet. Some of you have seen it before at committee, a little bit more updated than it was previously. Council had requested this update earlier in the year, and so here it is. Goal is to bring it to you in March. Just running through the high level real quick. We have 13 grant applications that we've received, and the council has approved basically 11 of those 13. You'll have another one on, I'm sorry, 12 of the 13, and you'll have another one on a council agenda for next Wednesday.
Charlie,
which
can we
is
have-
Chamber of Commerce?
Woody, do you want to put that up so we don't have
Yeah,
to, some of us don't got computers, other ones would have to load up their
Yeah, good point. Thanks.
computers. Thank you.
Thanks, Woody. Woody, any chance you can make that just slightly bigger for folks? They can probably see it.
A little small. Very good.
There you go. Perfect. Thank you. So just kind of running down the sheet here. So yeah, we've got 13, 12 have been approved. We'll have another one. So the 13th Chamber of Commerce grant request will be on the council agenda next week. If you follow the basically amount that we've awarded throughout here, you can see that the potential amount of money remaining, I say potential because it's assuming that all the money is spent that's been allocated so far. We're down to 27,269 from an original amount of 140,000. Some of the work has started. I know the museum's done some work. I haven't gone around and looked at all the projects yet. We're waiting for invoices to come in. That's how we'll really know stuff's going on. We'll go out and take pictures at that point. So the way it works is after council takes action, we put a grant contract together with each one of these folks that has a bunch of information about their project, has a ton of attachments, including their grant application and the review sheet that we did. And then they execute their project and submit the invoices to us, and then we provide them with the funding to support their actual expenses. So it's possible they may be lower than what you've allocated as well. All of these contracts go to the end of the year. So they're all set up for this calendar year at this point. And so this is where we are. I think the council wanted to talk about whether you wanted to keep going. We did get pretty much caught up with everybody. We are working right now with Low Auto Sales. I think we'll have their contract executed. It went out on DocuSign today. I think it'll be done this week. And the Chamber's contract, we haven't had a chance to put it out yet because we need your approval first, but should move pretty quick on that. So we're pretty well caught up. Everybody's agreed to a contract with one exception, Cascade Fabrics. And they came back after council approval, they had a $10,000 grant for an awning and some other exterior work on their building and said, you know, that's not enough. And they've got a contractor working with us directly. So they were asking, could they partner with another business? I said, I don't know if that'll be acceptable, but it might meet the letter of what we're doing here. So they were reaching out to another business to submit a second application. And then they were looking to put those both together to work on the building. There's another business in the building. So if that comes in, I'll bring that to you, but that's why theirs is on hold because they don't have enough to execute right now. So it wasn't worth doing a contract at this point with them.
I have a question. I know it hasn't come forward to us yet, but I'm seeing on the chamber donating $2,500 for downtown flower baskets. So we would be giving them $5,000 and then they would be giving us $2,500 back for the flowers. Doesn't that kind of seem like money laundering or like pushing to one to come back to the other?
It is strange, a little bit strange. I mean, it would potentially help with baskets, but that's really council's prerogative on how you want to handle that. You could easily, if you wanted to, take that out of their grant and just allocate the rest if you feel it's a worthy project. It's certainly
Is
an
that-
option.
Because we already have funding for it, for the 2,500, right, for the flower, it's already in the budget. So we wouldn't need that 2,500.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me
That's
to
what I think.
put money out to them for them to turn it around to us. That just seems kind of shady.
Especially
of
for
doing
a
it.
one-time, something that's not, it's a one-time use, it's not something that's actually beautifying for a long time.
Yeah,
What
just an
were,
option.
what were they using the other 25 for?
I included some of the details in
Shading,
here.
window frames, windowsills, new light fixtures, and cameras,
Oh, okay.
plants, and planter box, outdoor umbrella, and then donating 2,500 back to us.
I think if it went
Tax
through,
break.
I would
Well,
want
and I
that
don't think you can
2,500
donate something that you've been
Or is
given
it
a
for
grant
something
to.
Right,
You
yeah.
just take it.
I believe it's,
donated to the council.
They could still make a request, just get rid of the 2,500.
Well, if it came before us, we'd probably pull it and request that.
Yeah, we'll
25.
we'll get
Yeah.
clarification on that because I'm not so sure. Maybe it is, maybe that is, that was my first reaction too. But then I got to thinking, I know that they're encouraging other businesses to do flowers. So I'm really wondering if maybe they're going to be using that money to help other businesses do flowers in front of the place. I don't know, but we'll get clarification on that just to make sure that it's not what we're assuming. I mean, it probably is. I don't know, but let's make sure that we're, yeah, let's make sure.
That'd be great.
the rest of it, a lot of that work is on Pools Promenade for beautification and usability, including that umbrella.
Isn't it supposed to be towards front of it?
It's a business, so I think if you're walking down it, it's considered like still business space, just like if you were going down Metcalf.
Like the
Who
alley?
manages the alley? The city or the business? The property owner?
The
Between
city
the
owns
two.
the alley.
So it'd be like
It's
a
actually a
street.
park. It's our park, city park.
Because there's still Christmas lights.
Well, who's doing it?
There's still Christmas lights at Hammer Square.
Is there-
Christmas, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna come carol.
so I'll take part of the fault or whatever here for that, because that was something that she did ask about, but would be something that they just could continue to do. They get a lot of compliments on it. People love it. And it seems to deter people from coming in and vandalizing. So that's part of the reason why they've left it up, but I didn't think it'd be an issue, but there are concerns, maybe. Are there
No,
concerns?
I was walking through and looking at it and I just didn't know who was actually managing it. And who was responsible for it because it was still decorated for Christmas and not taken down with the rest of the Christmas stuff that the city does. So the string lights that are like white lights, that all still makes sense, but the ones that are hanging that are Christmas colors, I just didn't know if that's something that maybe they didn't have the resources to get down, or if that was just the decor of the alley. I don't know. I didn't
We can
know.
look into that as well.
Yeah, we can look into that. Also, the side of the wall that is adjacent to the park, that they're building. They've got it painted, they've just repainted it, they've got a mural on it. So I think they have kind of embraced that park. And I think in memory of Paula, they want to honor her memory. How do you do that? You take care of something that has her name on it. Yeah. So they've kind of taken it on, which is kind of nice. Reduces the work that our guys have to do, for sure.
If I remember correctly, we did use the word exterior when we were describing the buildings. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think
So,
so.
I think that, I don't think we said forward facing, I think we said exterior.
I think we
It
did say
changed a
forward
lot.
facing. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it does say
That's what I'm
forward
trying to
facing.
remember the final.
Yeah, but that is forward facing when you're walking on the front. It's like going down Metcalf or Ferry or.
I think the exact verbiage was public facing, if I remember.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
I'm
I was
just
sitting
gonna
in the
throw
crowd,
in
but I was
that
paying
Christmas lights,
attention.
Since we're here about the Christmas lights and the Hammer Square are still up.
Remember Heritage Square?
Yeah,
Okay.
whoever put them up should probably take them down. And I don't think it was our staff.
I think
the
it's awesome.
gazebo? Is that-
Yes.
Yeah, those are still.
Those are colored ones, not, I mean, I like the white ones, you see the different, like,
Yeah, the white ones are nice. Color, that's
yeah.
having their pumpkin out all year long.
So other than the museum, you haven't seen any activity, right?
No, and I haven't done any marketing of it. So knowing that the council wanted to have this conversation, I mean, you might want to say that's enough. I didn't want to do more marketing, so you. get a
I
bunch of
brought this up
applications. Yeah.
before, but I personally think that it's now March and anybody that was going to do it is probably already put their applications in. So I think my personal opinion is that it would be fair to issue a last chance, give them, maybe 2 weeks or something, or the end of the month. And that's the cutoff date for receiving applications. And then any money left there not allocated just goes back in and can be utilized or allocated somewhere else. And then the people that do have the opportunity to execute their contracts have until the end of the year. I mean, obviously we honor all of that, but what's there is there. There's no sense of urgency for anybody. It's just kind of, it's open, right? So how long are we gonna sit?
A lot of people.
And it takes a lot of time and resources for some of this stuff to process.
Yeah, they didn't quite know, but it looks like all of it's filled up. I mean, nearly,
There's 27,000.
yeah, so it's 2.5, 2 businesses and a nonprofit, I guess. So it's not a bunch, and if it folds back in, then, it's intended for economic development, so it gives that whole, plan to kind of do that. I mean, I guess we'd know by the strategic planning meeting that we're planning, so that would be an idea to say, okay, what do you do with the other 140 or 167, whatever's in there?
Whatever.
Yeah, and figure it out, so we don't have it sitting past the due date.
Well, I think this was really a great opportunity that you all put out, that the council has put out for our businesses, and, well done, really, well done. You're gonna,
They needed it.
yes, some of them.
So if we issue an end date, a drop dead date, if you will, for the grant application, and we reabsorb those monies that are left over, are those still earmarked for economic development?
They are presently in the council's ARPA plan, American Rescue Plan Act plan. Those monies can be shifted around within that plan at the council's discretion.
So would some of that include, I know our last meeting, we decided to, I think it was in the consent agenda, to execute a contract with a concrete grinding company for the sidewalks, and most of that work was to be done around the central business district. As part of the economic plan, if the money got reabsorbed, can that go towards offsetting those costs out of the general fund?
Those are eligible expenses.
Okay.
We've also applied for a grant to help take care of a whole bunch of the area downtown. So,
Cool.
yeah, that may also be a factor in your analysis there.
Good. Okay.
I like the idea of an end date and then using the money to where it's needed.
Yeah, I do too. It's been out there.
Yeah.
A lot of people, it's gonna be a good summer. People are gonna change things around a little bit and get engaged. All these people will be working around the town, and then we'll have a lot of rodeo, and then we'll have festivals, and then we'll be getting ready for next year. It'll be good, Christmas and stuff. It might spur hopefully people around to be like, hey, I wanna do this with my business or not.
I'll plan to sunset at end of March. If that works. I think that's pretty good timing. So we're hearing it's the 6th, so.
Who do you contact to let people know that it's sunsetting?
How are we gonna do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put it out certainly on social media. We'll pretty much replay what we did when we initially put it out. So social media, Chamber of Commerce, I'll call Vince at the Herald, have him, if he's willing, ask him to write an article, that type of stuff. So we'll push it out in a variety of different ways. Certainly we can highlight it at council as well.
So the only business that's done anything is a museum. So if they did write an article, they'd say these people have applied and these businesses have got it, and then they'd be able to showcase the museum. So
That's the one I'm aware of. Yeah, I haven't seen the others. I keep an eye on them.
yeah, well, that's cool. At least there's one to showcase.
I'm a
And
little
then-
sad that nobody else is actually moving forward.
Yeah.
I'm planning to remodel my house. I got my van, and
Not
I'm
winter projects, painting and awnings and stuff you don't want to do.
That's
right now.
true. Yeah, and a lot of the landscaping is like the parking lot and all of that stuff that they just can't do in the weather right now.
And that's kind of what I suspected when we passed it in the middle of winter. Like, it's gonna take a while before people actually get to pick this stuff up and start doing it. It's more, look, hopefully they've all found a contractor, have an agreement, they're gonna show up on this date. and they follow through with it before we get our busy summer season where things are actually nice and active.
So if it pulled back, like Alan was, or someone was saying, and we utilize it for that concrete, we can almost have the concrete done in May or something like that, because we'd have funds for that right away. I believe, from what I understand, it was already in the public works funding. But I think we may be able to get that done sooner. I'm just thinking when we start hitting the season of people wanting to be outdoors and enjoying outside, having that stuff done.
Yeah, the actual execution may take a little bit of time. and It's something I'd want to consult Mark on before just answering
Yeah,
it.
just do it.
He will not appreciate that.
Give him
answer,
a, give him a
but-
2 week
Yeah, you got 2
deadline.
weeks.
Tell him, hurry, you have it done.
Memory
Yeah.
serves, they did that same company, that Nate hired. Did that in Burlington, the same exact people, and it was early fall. Like it was October-ish. I think they were trying to keep kids from tripping on sidewalks for trick or treating and stuff, so, but they came through and they made pretty short work of it.
Yeah. We'll get back to you on that question though.
Do we have time to talk about the email that we got from Nikki about the public comment? Or did we want to talk, or was that an executive session kind of a thing?
So, well, it really bordered on that. In fact, we had a debrief afterwards because there were times that I hesitated, so I was waiting actually for Nikki to step in to see if we had actually crossed the line. Apparently we were okay. I don't know, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, it was really, she.
Yeah, my preference would be to at least have Nikki here.
Yeah.
For
Is
that
she-
discussion. She's
on-
not here for
oh.
work sessions
Yeah.
usually. Yeah, just because if you've got, and if you've got questions, we're not typically taking action here, so that's
Okay.
really where we want her to be.
But, we're not opposed to you, I mean, make sure you say, attorney-client privilege
Mhm.
in the header in the subject.
But I can't reply all to that email, of course, right? Just so for the
Like, so everyone
Open
can
Public
see.
Meeting Act.
That's a quorum.
So what,
So like to Nikki's email that she sent all of us, I think it was at like 1:09
uh-huh.
PM today. So with questions, I can't
It's exact
Yeah.
session.
reply
Yeah,
all.
yeah, it is executive session.
It is?
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Oh,
looking
yeah.
at the way she sent it, it's executive session discussion, which we could certainly plan to have.
I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about the other one, not the one that came in today.
Oh, so the one that came in today was for 2 meetings ago. Towards the end of the meeting, we were having a discussion on the anti-Semitism coming in through online commenters and what our restrictions may or may not be towards those and what action we should take as a city. Doing all that. No, it's fine.
Somebody's getting a jump on work, taking in a restaurant.
So essentially, I'm kind of wanting to know when and where we're going to make any kind of decisions based on, like as a city or as Nikki's recommendations towards any of these different things. Because there's a lot of things that like disruptive behavior that we can do, and then removal procedures, cutting off speakers, stuff like that. And ensuring that we're not infringing on any kind of First Amendment rights.
Right. I think probably the first time, I hope it never happens, but the first time that happens here, I think we're all going to be shocked.
Mhm.
I don't know if you listen to what happened in Stanwood or what happened in Anacortes.
I'll just ask Josh Penner what happened in Ording. He sent us all a video of it. It was
Yeah.
graphic.
So one thing that we did talk about in our directors meeting was that there is opportunity for, I can actually turn to you. After 3 minutes is up, I can cut them off and I can turn to you and I can ask your permission to dismiss
Mhm.
public comment. That's one thing that we're talking about doing. As long as you're all for it, then it's done. And then we don't have to continue on listening to other people interrupting. So that's one thing that we're looking at. Nikki's looking into the legalities of that. She's actually the one who brought it up. She's looking into see if that's even a real possibility that we can do that. So that's just one solution that we're trying to think of so that it's not taking away, I know that was a real concern, taking away the option for people to be able to make public comment. It'll allow them to do that, but it gives us the power and authority to say, okay, enough is enough, and now we're moving on. So that's what we're looking at doing, just so you're all aware. But again, we're just looking into the legalities of it.
Charlie, if somebody replies to Nikki's email from today and hits reply all, then that is a violation of the open
Yeah.
public meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You were asking that earlier, needed.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
want to make
sorry.
sure you got that
If
answer.
you've got a question though for Nikki, you want to get answered, you can certainly reply directly to her
Yeah.
or call her and she will gladly
Yeah,
talk with you
that's what I
about
was
it.
starting to say, but you gotta be sure to say client, be sure to say attorney-client privilege. So that way then it's protected.
But at the next meeting, you could have a closed session and you could ask these questions in there too.
Right,
Yeah,
can we add that on to next meeting?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, you bet. Yeah.
Because I don't
Yeah.
like to not know things.
Um,
I think it's
So, yeah.
better to communicate it too, as a,
It's hard to talk right now, but you
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
really be saying, and then, so
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, there are a couple of levels to it. There's sort of the liability, attorney-client privilege discussion, and then there's the, if we need to take any actions to change the way we do public comment, public discussion about what that might look like.
And then the other thing, you probably see it on here on the agenda, item G, it says public comments, which usually we have never done that for work session, or even for special sessions, but it's something that we're gonna start doing because of the way the laws have changed. So, I just requested that we put it at the end of the meeting, and then that way, if there is somebody online who wants to make comment about what we had discussed, they have 3 minutes to make a comment so that we know what they're thinking. So
Right.
if Charlie, is the discussion kind of completed here? Are there other questions? Or Charlie, is there other things you want to say about the community development grant program?
No, got good clear direction from council. I don't have anything further unless council's got more questions or direction you'd like to provide.
Okay, nothing. So then, I don't see anybody online, but just in case there is there anybody online who would like to make public comment? Because obviously there's nobody here. Hear anything, so, no, but it looks like it's just those of us, the 7 who are online here. There is a guest. Is there anybody online who would like to make public comment? Either raise your hand or unmic. I see there's a tandem who is that, oh, it's IT admin, never mind. Okay. Well, there's IT director and there's IT admin. All right.
Got anything for us, Woody?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So no public comment. So with that, we'll see you next Wednesday. We're adjourned. Thank you.
There it is.
See you Friday, right? We got our interview.
Okay.